In this chapter, a dude was attacked by a bunch of undead creatures that spawned from the dark. As a couple of monsters got close to him, he blew them away with a single strike. Then, a female sorcerer appeared in front of him and summoned demonic creatures from who knows where. As the lower beings clashed against the protagonist, the Skull Knight monster charged at him, but luckily he was able to dodge its attack in the nick of time. Right after that, he picked something out of his pocket and threw some marbles beneath the monster's feet. It then exploded, creating a blast that was powerful enough to knock it away. The monster fell to the ground, and the protagonist jumped on top of it, ready to finish it off with his great sword and hammer. He pierced the monster's face with his sword, then used his hammer to deal a few more blows, finally killing it. The sorcerer was humbled, realizing that her opponent would surely do anything to achieve victory. The man was also impressed, as he didn't expect that someone with a blacksmith profession was able to make it to the top, even though it's a terrible job. She asked him why he picked that team, and he said it was just for fun. Then he asked her why people always root for the underdog. He said it's because it's exciting to see the weak beat the strong. It was so satisfying to watch something that seemed impossible to achieve. But because someone can think of themselves as the underdog of the story, they can turn every impossible thing into something possible. He told her that picking an overpowered class and then showing off would make the game too easy and ruin the fun. She said that picking a good class is obviously the right thing to do. He agreed that there were plenty of challenges in choosing a trash job and honing the skills. But the real fun of the game appears when you come up with all kinds of ideas and put all your effort into overcoming those challenges. She thought he was crazy, but she understood what he was saying. Still, calling the willingness to take the hardest path fun was a bit harsh. The man was impressed, hammer in hand, but he suspected she was just playing it cool to lower his guard. He told her that the necromancer's curses were unique because they only needed to use hand seals to cast them. He started swinging his hammer at her when he realized she'd been using voice chat to buy herself some time. As he struck her face with his hammer, shards of her broken mask fell off her face. Luckily, she survived the attack and was stunned to realize that she's still alive. She then looked at her health status and saw that she only had a fraction of HP left. Taehyun Lee, the Necromancer Guild Master, caught her opponent off guard and cast a powerful spell that knocked him to the ground. With that, the PvP battle was over and she was victorious. Taehyun was exhausted after the battle, and her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. After trading powerful blows with the blacksmith, she felt like she'd aged a decade. She was in awe of how he had lived up to his name. She said if the critical hit had been the one to finish her off, the outcome would have been different. He cut her off and told her to stop. He said there was nothing wrong with the hammer, and even if it guaranteed a critical hit, he'd still swing it a bunch of times without any problems. She kept whining that he beat her fair and square, and that he could ask the audience or the organizers for proof if he didn't believe her. She even suggested they have a rematch. He told her to chill out, that she was already good at the game, and that she was also pretty. The blacksmith was pissed and blamed the game's luck-based system. She asked him what his next plans were or if he wanted a rematch, but he said no and thought it was time to quit the game. She was surprised to hear this as she watched him open the log settings and prepare to log off. She tried to stop him, but it was already too late. At least the blacksmith, Taehyun Kim, had fun during their battle. After the fight in the last chapter, a player who was live streaming was shaken when he heard that Fantasy Online will soon be shutting down. He told the viewers that he'd been using his mom's credit card to buy in-game items for the past 2 days. What a loser. Over by the stage, a couple of kids were asked who their favorite player was. The girl was totally blown away by Taehyun's performance, and the chubby kid was so head over heels in love with the necromancer that he wanted to marry her. Taehyun Lee stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd of fans cheering for her guild. She raised her voice, grateful for their support. Outside the Coliseum, a couple of guys watched the necromancer's performance. They were impressed by how well she fought her opponent, Taehyun. The girls were eager to learn about their new profession and were happy to help each other out. At school, a bunch of students ran in, thinking Taehyun was as old as their teacher. The teacher told the students to cut it out and get to class. At the restaurant, a couple of employees were chatting about their manager, Mr. Kim. They knew he played games with his son, and one of them wondered if he could get a promotion by giving his boss's son some in-game items or something. His coworker was like, "You can't afford that stuff. You don't make as much as the boss, and he spends half his paycheck on his kid's stuff." The man then yelled so loud that everyone in the restaurant heard him. A woman on a giant TV in the city announced that several companies are really interested in Fantasy Online's full-body immersive virtual reality technology. Here's some news. An executive said that they had some preliminary estimates, but the trade turned out to be much bigger than they expected. He said that they're rolling out new servers to replace the older models in Singapore. In other news, world champion gamer and professional streamer Taehyun Lee is still going strong after 3 seasons of winning. She's always aiming for the top, and she's definitely put Korea on the map as a gaming powerhouse. Outside the news, Taehyun got a notification that he was selected for a scholarship in Korean language and literature at Korea University. He was stoked, so he left the facility right away. 6 months ago, Taehyun's father was mad and scolded him about being an author since in this day and age, even an AI is capable of learning to write novels. He found nothing wrong about it and told his dad that he wanted to do it for the people. Taehyun's dad was pissed. He couldn't believe his son, a scholar, was getting bad grades. Taehyun didn't care about his grades though. He just wanted to graduate. So his dad didn't get why he was even bothering to apply to Korea's top university. The father and son got into a heated argument, calling each other lazy and hypocritical. His father told him that he'd been working hard since he was a little boy, but Taehyun asked him how he deals with stress and all the hardships in life. Taehyun was crying as he asked his father if he even loved him. Without hesitation, his father made it clear to him that he doesn't love him at all and told him to leave the house. As he walked away like a wimp, he taunted his father by saying he'll just go home to his own house instead. Taehyun's dad heard him loud and clear when he said that he could bulldoze the establishment his dad bought under his son's name. His dad got pissed and put his son in an arm lock, telling him to hand it over. Taehyun and his father got into a heated argument once more. Taehyun told his father to sell the lot back to him, but his father refused and said he'd rather pay the taxes and disown him. The son told his old man he was going to sue him for using his name without permission. In the middle of their argument, his mom came into the room with a plate of apples, having overheard her husband threaten to disown their son. The husband looked small against his wife as he told her that he's simply trying to scare their child off for being lazy and trouble-minded. His wife then showed her dark aura as she told him that he shouldn't force their son so hard to an extent, since they work their ass off every day so that their son doesn't have to go through the same experience they did. Mom told Taehyun to stop being so lazy, but she didn't care if he didn't have a job. She just didn't want him to be a bum. She asked him if he was planning on going back to school. Taehyun's mom glared at him as she peeled the apple, telling him to live responsibly and avoid doing anything immoral. Taehyun suggested that she just wanted him to get better grades, but she told him that getting good grades wasn't the only way to show his sincerity towards her. If Taehyun is serious about being an author, he could do better than just slacking off. But as long as he's putting in the effort, his parents are fine with whatever he does as long as he's successful. And just so it's clear, if Taehyun keeps mooching off his parents, his mom will think he doesn't respect her. Taehyun tried to reason with his mom, telling her that she was expecting too much from him without giving him any guidance on how to meet her expectations. His mom then suggested that a marriage interview with some girls might help him solve his problem. She then pulled out some pictures of the girls and asked Taehyun which one of them he would like to meet first. Taehyun clenched his teeth as his mother told him that early marriage was the quickest way to learn responsibility, since his great-grandmother had done the same thing back in her day. But Taehyun wasn't having it. He was going to college instead. A little while later, Taehyun was stoked to find his VR equipment had arrived at his place. The machine was called the Sphere, and it was the next-gen VR device. He put it on and logged into the virtual world known as Fantasy Online 2. Taehyun found himself in a virtual space, with the game's logo appearing in front of him. To start his adventure, he needed to enter a character name. He decided to use his real name, then proceeded to scan his biometric data. He checked his friend list to see who was online. He saw his friend Pro-Gay with a silly profile picture, and was surprised to see him call first. He asked if he was really calling from inside the game, and if he had actually bought a VR set. Taehyun was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm a little late into the game." His friend was like, "Are you sure you can keep up? You're 3 months behind." Taehyun was like, "I'll figure it out eventually." He also noticed that the game had a lot more options than before, so he asked his friend to walk him through everything. Taehyun's pro-gay friend wanted to come over, but Taehyun said he could handle it himself. He'd rather try new things on his own. His friend suggested he pick one of the 2 kingdoms on the map. The Kingdom of Dungland and Elance are the best places to start, according to all the top guide sites. So, Taehyun asked his friend where he should avoid, and he said the Kingdom of Jaws. The developers of this game recommend that you avoid this particular kingdom. They say it was the worst place in the game during its beta phase. The quest was too hard and the root city was terrible. After he finished creating his character, he was given a choice of where to spawn. He hung up on his friend and jumped into the chaotic world of Jaws. After teleporting inside Fantasy Online 2, Taehyun decided to check something out of curiosity. He touches the tree leaves to test if they added some changes. He was shocked that it felt oddly real just for a VR game. After some time, Taehyun further explores his surroundings, which leads him to his destination. The Hunter's Paradise, the capital of Jaws. Taehyun continued his journey inside the city and was amazed at the quality, calling it God tier. He was amazed at how detailed the so-called trash city was, and wondered how other cities would compare. Suddenly, a person with a ghastly face turns around in front of him, which scared Taehyun. The soulless person continues to move along while Taehyun was still in his defensive position, realizing that the person in front of him was not an enemy mob. Suddenly, a bunch of players around Taehyun were at the brink of despair, losing all hope as they realized how hard it is to register and verify inside the game. Taehyun was speechless while he watched the players around him go crazy. He finally realized that the rumors of the Hunter's Paradise being the worst starting city was indeed true. Then the game gave him a tutorial quest to start his first steps, which was to look for August the Hunter, who can teach him the basic survival skills and progression of the game. He closed the tutorial window since he was confident about his skills. Taehyun moves on to the status window and notices that he has no class. As for the weapons, he has a shabby sword for the jobless class, which had an attack power of 5 and a durability of 10, with a hurtful description that you guys can relate to. The pot calling the kettle black. Taehyun swings the sword and plans out how to become the top-ranking off-meta player again, just like his previous blacksmith account. He starts his first adventure at the plains where a bunch of cute and fluffy-looking bunnies are enemy mobs. Taehyun was in disbelief, thinking that these kinds of mobs should not be fit for killing. As he mumbles to himself, a bunny sneaks up on him and kicks him in the back, causing him to fall over and lose touch of his sword. Taehyun, with a lovely face, had no idea what just happened to him. A status panel pops up in front of him explaining that he currently has taken a lot of damage, exceeding the limit, which caused him to bleed. He picked up his sword and thought that the game's mechanics were too much for a starting player. Taehyun looks at the rabbit while it warms up to fight. Rabbit used taunt. Taehyun fell for the taunt. He didn't care about feeling bad for killing the rabbits anymore. The two of them charge head-to-head with each other as they battle each other. Nighttime took over, and a ranger can be seen on guarding duty in front of the gate. Taehyun was beaten up like a folded omelette, but fortunately, he successfully won against the raid boss. Taehyun took him a whole day just to hunt that one rabbit, and was starting to understand why everyone hated the capital of Jaws as a starting city. While he continues to lie down, a notification panel pops up in front of him, telling him to distribute the bonus points using the status panel since he leveled up. He was surprised that a mere starting bunny gave him enough experience for him to level up. Suddenly an incoming call from his friend, Pro-Gay, alerts him. telling Taehyun to not hang up again or he'll block him. Pro-Gay questions him if he really went to start at the Kingdom of Jaws, which Taehyun affirmed. He gives Taehyun a link from a forum, telling him to open it. A bunch of messages from the forum are complaining about how ridiculous it is to start at the Kingdom of Jaws due to its unfavorable conditions as a starting player. Taehyun covers his mouth and questions Pro-Gay on what he should do since he's screwed. Being Taehyun's friend, he told him to stop covering his mouth with his hand to unmask his smirk. As an off-meta player, he questions Pro-Gay in which classes are trash. He told Taehyun that his blacksmith class is out of the question, since every guild is now recruiting for them, making them no longer trash tiers. Pro-Gay added that he was underestimating how popular his class was, since he already came across 3 of his fanboys. The trash tier became an S-tier ranking job and it was all Taehyun's fault. Taehyun acted smug and passed the offer to become a blacksmith since it's a good class. Pro-Gay inquired if Taehyun has already gotten stat adjustments since he's still jobless. He has to pick a job first before he gets a stat adjustment to his combat stats to match his role. Example of these are magic defense adjustments for magicians, undead bonuses for priests, charisma for leaders, and more. Taehyun questions him on what's the most useless stat currently. Pro-Gay responded that it was luck. Upon hearing those words, he remembers his battle against Se-Yun Lee, where he almost won if it wasn't for his unlucky hit which didn't do critical damage. After making up his mind, Taehyun told Pro-Gay that he has already decided to become jobless. He thanks his friend for advising and giving him tips. His friend questioned him if he's serious, to which Taehyun affirmed. He got screwed over the 2% which caused him to lose the battle previously, so he thinks that maybe putting in some luck could help him increase the chances. Pro-Gay calls him a fucking lunatic, wishes him the best of luck, and told Taehyun to call him if he wants to talk. After disconnecting from the call, Taehyun was determined to become jobless where he bets all of his stats on luck, since he wants to play the shittiest meta with the shittiest stats of all time. Taehyun Kim was just an ordinary VMorp player, until he rose up to the rankings by using the shittiest class possible. Will he be able to start his redemption arc in the second installment of Fantasy Online by using the trashiest class possible? As the saying goes, there's no trash abilities, only trash people. Maybe this time, things will go differently for him, but with Taehyun's spirit as a player, he is determined to destroy anything that comes his way.